Okay. Looks like it's up and running. Alright, so I just recently completed a campaign in Warhammer 3 Total War for the Vampire Coast. So I got the achievements for playing on very hard difficulty and getting a completed campaign. So I'm just going to start a new campaign and kind of talk about this a little bit. So I think Vampire Coast is a lot of fun, but you kind of, I think the most fun way to play the Vampire Coast is to try a little bit of a different play style than what I'm used to. So my usual play style is, you know, you pretty much try to just conquer the entire map, and that's what's fun. And the way the Vampire Coast seems to play, or at least the most fun way I've found to play, is instead of worrying about trying to conquer and defend territory, just really lean into the fact that you are a pirate, and your goal is to essentially raid, you know, various ports across the world and set up vampire coves, and that's really your big goal. You don't need to take over territory if you don't want to. And it's kind of detrimental to take over territory, because then you have to defend it. So, that being said, you can conquer territory and keep it and grow it, but the problem is pretty much everybody on the map is going to hate you at some point anyway. Chaos doesn't like you, Order factions don't like you, other vampires don't really like you. The other Vampire Coast pirates, you might be able to get to where they like you, but, you know, again, not necessarily something you need to worry about making friends. One of the best parts about the Vampire Coast is they are kind of like the vampire counts, so you can just raise the dead wherever you are from the pool of available undead units, and use that to buff up your army. The downside, though, is the vampire counts are a very rush faction. They are all melee focused, and their heroes are very good at doing melee attacks. The Pirates of Sartosa, the heroes really are more for buffing your army. The only ones that are good on their own are the Morn. I think they're called Morn Ghouls, and so those are a hero unit that are very good at melee, and so you can just get a big army of those. They're kind of expensive, and you have to do certain things to unlock them so you can get enough capacity. But they are very good at attacking everything. But that's more of a late game army that you can build versus a starting army. Okay. So yeah, with the Vampire Coast, you know, you're typically gonna do the same kind of setup almost as if you were the Empire. You're gonna set up your army. You're gonna be ready to, you know, rain down field artillery and ranged units on the other enemy, and then, you know, you'll support your ranged army with melee units. Where the weakness is because you don't really have that great of melee units, or they are very expensive. You're almost better off just focusing on just building the best ranged army you can, and doing lots of them for cheap. And again, if you're doing raiding, you don't actually have to hold on to territory, so you don't have to defend everything. You just move on with your army, and you just constantly are sacking or raising towns for lots of money, and that's actually more valuable than trying to hold on to towns. So right now I'm playing the Pirates of Sartosa within the Vampire Coast. This is actually one of the factions I kind of wish they had built to where it was all like living pirates. Because the leader is alive. This is actually one of the few parts of the Vampire Coast where you kind of look at it and go, you know, why do they have to use so many undead units? Because it would have been nice to see deck gunners, but a living version, not just an undead version. Because as far as I can tell, there is no deck gunner unit in the game for living humans. So it's kind of funny that you can have an undead army with them, but not a living army. Whereas, you know, the zombie pirate gunnery mob, the Sartosa militia is basically the living equivalent. So, same thing for the zombie pirate gunnery mob. You have the regular hand gunners in the Empire that are pretty much identical. So nothing too surprising in the first battle. I could have done a little better, but I was able to pretty well kill their units much quicker than they were able to hurt any of mine. So I feel like the Pirates of Sartosa should have been the one faction that didn't quite fit into the Vampire Coast and was purely a living faction where maybe after a certain level you can then unlock the undead because maybe she's gone dark. The other thing that's a little, can be underappreciated in the game, in the Vampire Coast, game mechanics is the treasure. The way it's currently implemented, it's not really worth chasing after the treasure half the time. Because you have to solve the riddle, figure out which city you're supposed to go to, and then, you know, use there's a little button specifically for your hero. Let's see here. Yeah. So, you know, have to use this stance to dig for treasure. But if you miss, you know, you're done moving for your turn. And if the treasure, you know, like some of these treasures, they don't say that it's all that great. Where is it? I think it's over here. Nope. Yeah, so some of these treasures, you might spend a whole bunch of effort to go get it. Yeah, so it says, like, this treasure that I just decided not to do, it was going to be a great hoard of treasure. But it was really out of the way, and ultimately they're not going to give you any rare items that you might need for your heroes and your legendary lords. So as a result, it's not really worth going that far out of your way for some of this stuff if they're not gonna reward you for spending that time. So this is what I was talking about. So I can sack the city, or I can establish a pirate cove. So establishing a pirate cove is actually more beneficial to me than taking over the territory. So if I establish a pirate cove, I actually have the option of going for money, so that's the smuggling and trade, or I can get buffs. And so the buffs I can get, you can go for infamy and vampiric corruption, but usually that's not really worth it. The one that is worth it, though, is hero capacity for Gunnery Wights and Mourngul Haunters. So the Mourngul Haunters are the best kind of, like, late game unit for melee that you've really got access to. If you look at the building browser, you've got Vampire Fleet Captains. They're just spellcasters that support whoever the Lord is for the army running around. But they're not great at melee. They don't get to ride a really nice undead mount like the Vampire Lords do. You got the Gunnery Wight. He basically buffs the ranged units. And then you've got the Mourngul Haunter. So those are your only three real heroes. So unfortunately, like, once you get to a point at the kind of the later stages of the game, you really need some hero Mourngul Haunters leveled up to help strengthen the overall melee defense of your army. You can have tons of artillery, like the carronades and the mortars, or the deck gunners, but without Mourngul Haunters, your army is going to be really weak. Because you need something that can go toe-to-toe with the enemy while you're bombing the hell out of them. You can rely on a bunch of Necrofex Colossus, but they are very expensive. So right now, those are 450 gold to turn. Mourngul Haunters, 325. The Mourngul Haunters are much better melee. So the Necrofex Colossus, really the main reason why you recruit those is to have more ranged attack, because they got a range of 330. So you use them kind of like to help buff up how much your cannons are doing. So yeah, so the overall faction is a lot of fun, but they do have a lot of weaknesses you have to account for when you're playing. Otherwise you're gonna struggle, and it could make the factions seem like they're not fun, but really it's just that you have to play them a certain way in order to get the most out of them. So for example, this is one of the big issues I have. Even when you get a max level settlement, so level 5, I can only earn 300 gold a turn from a buried treasure chest, The Buccaneer Tavern only gets me 60 gold a turn, and no other building, none of these buildings give me any kind of financial buff. So the Skaven actually are much more suited to conquering territory than the Vampire Coast. So there are some buildings, like say if you got a port, the ports are generally pretty valuable, but if you conquer the city that a port is in, you have to defend it. If you just build a pirate cove, nobody really can tell it's there. So this pirate cove I built, nobody can see this. This is pretty much invisible. Nobody is ever going to be able to target my pirate cove and take it out. I haven't seen any mechanics where they can accidentally find it and destroy it. Once you set it up, it's there. That's money for you, or buffs for your faction. You're pretty much safe. So that's very nice. The other thing I like about the Vampire Coast is they kind of operate like a horde faction. So Aranessa Saltspite, I can level up her ship, essentially. So while she's traveling around, I can level her ship up, and that gives her buffs to make it so her army is cheaper. I can have her move further each turn. I can recruit units from her ship while I'm traveling around. So if I go over here, let's see here. So I can actually recruit units. So right now I don't have military chain buildings, so I can't recruit units. But if I did, then I'd be able to recruit more units while I was traveling around with her on the map. And then, yeah, this is one of the problems with Aranessa. She does not have a magic branch. So it's a little interesting that, again, she is a Vampire Coast legendary lord, but she does not actually have any magic. She's not a vampire. She doesn't have the hunger ability like the Vampire Coast captains do. So yeah, I basically have to add one of the, what are they called? They're called Vampire Fleet Captains. So I have to add one of these to her army in order to get her access to magic. So okay, I'm gonna actually try to upgrade her ship. So instead of trying to be able to unlock different units, I'm gonna upgrade her ship instead. Alright, so auto-resolving is going to really mess up my army if I choose to try to do that. So instead, I'm going to fight this. So it looks like I just need to take advantage of the fact that I have a lot of long-range damage dealers to try to wipe out their army before they get to me. Alright, so... looks like they're not gonna come to me, so I'm gonna have to move up just a little bit. So, the Rotting Prometheans, this doesn't seem like a bad unit to have. The problem is it's expensive, it's slow, it's only got a 45 run speed, and it's not good enough to justify the cost. So even though this looks like a fun unit, and I wouldn't necessarily say no to having it in my army, the amount of effort you got to put into recruiting it and keeping it, it's not worth owning them as far as like an army build, because it's liable to just get killed in one of your first fights just because of how slow it is. So any enemy that's got like fast cavalry units is probably going to rip apart your Rotting Promethean unit. This is also kind of like the mount that most of the vampire lords get. For some reason, they don't have access to like Terrorgeist as like an end game mount. So that makes them very vulnerable to the fact that they're slow, they're not airborne, so you're just kind of very vulnerable to all the attacks that the enemy throw at you because you can't really run away from them. So yeah, so this was a pretty messy battle on my part. So I'm gonna win, but yeah, I could have done better if I'd have been a little more responsive on my units. Yeah, looks like I just lost my gunnery white because he took just a little too much damage. So again, that's one of the downsides of vampire units, is they don't run away in fear, but if they take too much damage, they will crumble. So I do always have the hope that maybe one of my units that I'd lost in the battle will get revived afterwards, but we'll see. Yeah, so I lost the gunnery wipe. So that's too bad. But I did get the settlement, so I can just raise it to the ground. And I did make enough money I can upgrade my ship. So here's a funny side effect of the way they leveled up Aranessa. So you'll notice, even though Pirates of Sartosa have living units, they have two different units that you can have in your army. The Sartosa Free Company and the Sartosa Militia. So they really should have put the Sartosa Militia and the Free Company into these buffs to account for the fact that she does have living units. So instead, I'm actually harmed by having living units in my armies because I can never buff them properly. So if you look back here, yeah. So the port in Sartosa gives me access to the Sartosa militia and the Sartosa Free Company. So you would think that that should be a normal part of her army, but it's not. And if I remember correctly, only the Pirates of Sartosa can get these two units. So this isn't like a unique buff to just owning Sartosa as one of the pirate factions.
Ready to swordfish. Oh, praise the sea, Father! We return to Sartosa as legends!
Yeah.
There'll be travel rations on the ship this night. Aranessa salt spiked. Let's go landwards.
Absolutely not.
So there's enough upgrades for the Vampire Coast that you really need to pick what you want based on what kind of army you're using. So you need to be kind of more picky, and so if you know that your main focus is going to be range damage, then you want to pick stuff that's actually going to buff your range damage. So that means things like you know, going for armor missile damage, more ammunition, going for more missile strength. Yeah, going for a longer range, so that's a pretty big one. That would be really important because pretty much the entire campaign you run, you're going to be running a lot of these cheap units. So that's going to be a big part of keeping your campaign healthy is maximizing how strong those individual units are and getting them all their buffs.
The Queen of Tides! We're shipshape! I'll have them!
So hopefully, yeah, good. So we got a bloated corpse. So they only have 11 units. The downside is I don't really have a good way to get past their walls. So the only way to do it is going to be to attack, either attack the walls or climb the walls. And a lot of my units can't climb walls, so that means pretty much going to be attacking a gate. Alright, so typically you kind of look around to see what's the weakest gate to attack. So they have one tower here. So this is not a bad location. So what you don't want to do is leave all your vulnerable units to get shot. Alright. So this way, there's only one tower they're going to have available to shoot me with. And I got all my other vulnerable units over there to keep them out of the way. So the downside is I'm still going to take some damage, but not nearly as much as I would have otherwise. So if my army was more upgraded, this would not be nearly as long to get through the walls. Or once I have access to actual artillery units. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and slow it down here. Alright, so now we broke through the walls. So now I can tell the rest of my units to get up here. Okay. So, battle's not going to go great for me until I get the rest of my troops here. And really what I need is my explodey boys. So right now, the enemy's all clustered together trying to stop me at the gates.
All set.
And as soon as I can get these guys up to help, they can put a stop to the clumping of their troops. Alright, so... Okay, here we go. So, I do love the explodey boys, especially in the beginning of the campaign, because you really don't have a lot of options to make your units better in the beginning. But with these guys, this will really help make it so they're going to just tear apart the enemy units. So this is always going to be fun. Oops. Looks like he might have gotten shot. Okay. So not the best. But at least they did have an impact. So this should pretty much give me the victory at this point. I'm just waiting for everybody to show up.
once!
Withdraw!
So this is really the only unit that's intact that I'm fighting at this point. There we go. So, again, managed to pull it off, but that was not a great battle because my army was not in great shape to start with. And I could have done better with the Explodey Boys, but I think either one of them got triggered by the gas cloud from the previous one, or maybe he took one too many arrows. Okay, so I'm kind of conflicted because I want to destroy the city, but I do need a pirate cove, so I can try sacking and see if I've got enough movement to establish a pirate cove afterward, and then, yeah. So the downside is Miragliano, or sorry, this is Talia. That faction does not want to make peace with me. So that's going to make it kind of difficult for me. I might consider getting a hold of Riff Rafa and trading it to them for peace, because I don't necessarily want to be at war with Talia while I'm going after new locations. Okay. So I think I found another unit that's not accounted for under their buffs. So they have deck droppers. That seems to be the common unit that they have. But if you choose to use Fellbats, Fellbats do not have any way to get buffed. So ideally,
Thassa's most infamous.
when you're trying to build your ship, you would think if you can make Fellbats as a starting unit, that would be something that could get buffed. Yeah, and here's the Terrorgeist. So in my mind, the Lord who's in charge of the army should be able to get upgraded to a Terrorgeist as his last available mount. That would make him much more powerful and useful when you're dealing with the endgame battles against other factions.
Plunder! Another victory!
Alright.
I'll ignore that.
Ready to swordfish! The Queen of Tides!
Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hold on to my growth until I can get access to cannons.
Find treasure!
I will not obey. More warstone. Now, now.
Yes! The winds blow true!
I refuse.
Praise Manan! Bring them back! Onwards!
So I don't recall Fellbats being so powerful. That is a crazy amount of melee defense on these bats.
A pirate queen! Row.
Alright, so primarily I'm not really looking there we go.
Dubious masters.
So I'm not really trying to fight Talia anymore. They've only got 2 territories left. They don't really have any money. There's nothing really worth fighting them anymore. So if I can just make them pay me to leave them alone, that's perfect.
All right.
So that's kind of the whole nutshell of a successful campaign against another faction. Beat them up, set up pirate coves in their ports or port cities, and then get them to make peace with you so that you don't have to keep fighting them.
Crying for blood. No
I think I'm going to go ahead and try to get back into my
fear the pirate.
pirate city here.
Sartosa's most
Okay.
infamous.
Okay. So I got an opportunity to get a new Gunnery White, or a Morngul Haunter. So I'm going to go ahead and get a Morngul Haunter. So these guys, these are what you want for your ultimate melee defense. They're resistant to missile damage. They have the hunger, so they'll heal in battle. They slow anybody they're attacking. And they've got stock, so they're not visible until they're on top of the other enemy army.
I'm no mermaid.
Okay, so I should have gotten enough. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna unlock cannons.
We're shipshape. The queen of tides.
So the human units are better at the moment, but the downside is they are more expensive. So I do have enough money. I'm gonna go ahead and get some what is it? Pirate gunnery mob handgunners.
My ship.
And then ideally what I want to do
Dubious masters have
is attack somebody like the Border Princes and use them to start powering up my economy.
Aranessa salt spite.
Alright, I'm going to incorporate the hero into my army.
Scales and salt. Fear the pirate queen.
Alright.
See, father.
So...
A done deal.
I'm gonna start... Uh-oh. That's interesting. So something happened over here, because
Sea brigands.
the border princes just lost one of their cities. So it looks like they're at war with Clan Scryer, so Clan Scryer probably took that settlement. Come on.
Now what do you want from me?
Alright.
Ready to swordfish.
Okay, so I do need to replace some of my troops so I can get cannon.
Salt water.
Alright, there we go. So that'll give me some cannons. That'll help out with the firepower of my army.
Raise Sigma.
Sartosa's most infamous. The Queen of Tides.
Alright, so...
Raise Sigma.
So the border princes don't have a whole lot
Nation calls.
in their city of Myrmidons. So that's too bad. Looks like the border princes are also getting attacked a lot by the Scrag the Slaughter. So the ogres are currently attacking them.
Fear the pirate queen.
Alright.
The Empire.
Find treasure. Now we're talking. Aye, aye.
So one thing that's nice is instead of just declaring war on somebody, get somebody else to pay you to declare war on somebody. Alright. So this is kind of a perfect situation. They have no artillery. I do. They have 3, 6, 7. They have about 22 units, and I have 20. So, I should be able to destroy a lot of their units and get past their walls using my artillery. I just need to find a good spot to attack their walls from. Okay. So it looks like this is a good spot. So they don't have any towers that can shoot at me in that direction. They do have this tower. But that's not going to be able to shoot over here. I also have a ton of bats, and apparently my bats are very powerful. I do not recall I don't recall regular vampire court bats being this powerful. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna freak out the crossbowmen. They don't really like being attacked with that many bats. Okay, my bats aren't doing so great in the durability department, but they did still mess up those crossbowmen pretty well.
Queen of Time! Come on!
Alright, looks like I broke through the gate, so that's good.
Free company! Charge! guns are yours! Form a ring of steel! From salt! Corpse crew! Show us the foe! Sigmar calls! Ah! Free company militia! Always true!
Sword spite! Ha!
Charge!
All right. Had to speed that up a little bit because it was getting a bit grindy, but still. The bats did their job. They got us into the base and kept the archers busy.
Grab the plunder and go! Analysta soll spite! Show no mercy! We're here now!
All right.
Sardosa's most infamous! For Sardosa! Avasti and cheer, you curs!
So I think I'm going to aim for upgrading my ship to level 3. That way I can unlock the better upgrades. Uh-oh.
Salt and blood.
I think he's coming for me.
Soon enough.
Yep. Okay. So... I don't know if I can take on this level of army at the moment. The biggest problem I have is he's got a 20 stack, and I know he's at least got, say, let's call it half of his army is ogres. My army's kind of weak at the moment. And I do not have an large portion of my army.
Fear the pirate queen. Find treasure. A done deal.
Alright, so...
The queen of tides.
Warmstone first. Pact deal later.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to get him to join the war. I don't have anything to really trade on. Alright. So, I can give it a shot.
We're ship shape. Ready to swordfish.
Alright, so he does have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so he does have 10 ogres like I thought, and he's got a hero and a lord that are ogres. So they're not super fast. So that's in my favor. And I might be able to blow up some of his people with my bloated corpses. Alright. I've got a hill, so that's a good start.
What do you bid? Powder wet. Gunnery mob. Moving.
Alright, so I know he's coming towards me, or no, he probably should be coming towards me. He might be setting up in his own little corner. Ugh.
Yes, master.
Okay. Alright, so he took the bait. Okay, so he's got a lot of stuff coming my way. Okay, let's see what we can do with the bloaty boys. Okay, so that wasn't enough to kill the ogres, but it did damage them quite a bit. Alright.
Mighty plunder!
Okay.
On the way. Gunnery mob. Drown them. Fight. Always through. Gunnery mob. On way.
Queen of time!
So yeah, just too much ogres.
I'll have my revenge! Aranessa salt spite!
They impinge on your servant. Oh, more.
More moving, less moaning! Bring them back! Sardosa's most infamous! Foe too far.
I serve only the great more.
Fear the pirate queen! Aranessa salt spite! Now we're talking! The queen of tides! Crew to war! Set the blaze! We're ship-shape! More bodies washed up. We return to Santosa as legends! Grind for blood!
All right. So I got Scrag mad at me for detonating his settlement.
Ignore my crew.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I figured they might do that.
Ready the swordfish! Come, sea brigands!
Okay.
See, father!
No one tells a tyrant what to do.
Salt water!
They impinge on your servant. Oh, more.
Yes! The winds blow true!
Alright, so I don't know if I can take this on, but I'm kind of desperate. I need to weaken Scrag as much as possible. Okay. Looks very familiar. So I'm gonna see if I can't weaken them by attacking the Noblars first. Alright, so that's a bit of a problem. Okay, well I scraped by the skin of my teeth. So that was not pretty.
I claim it for the Sea Father.
Alright.
Praise the Sea Father. We return to Sartosa as legends. More bodies washed up.
Begone, or I'll take your heads.
Alright, so I might need to disband for now. Just to keep Scrag from getting getting a victory against what's left of my army.
I will not
I also have the problem of Talia deciding to attack me.
all bones on deck.
Okay.
Not to be trusted.
All bones on deck.
So, realistically, if I've got the ogres coming after me, I really need zombie pirate deckhands pole arms so that I can defend against them. So it looks like I got lucky because the Skaven just wiped out Talia.
Let us reign. All in dead hands.
A mutineer if ever.
Fly the Roger! Admiral of the fleet.
Huh. Alright. I think I'm gonna take a break from Warhammer 3. I've been playing all day, but I might load up Baldur's Gate 3 here in a second.